Welcome back, everybody, to the Nidhi Show. I'm your host, Nidhi Setia, and we are on a journey from loneliness to light. And today, I've got a truly special guest for you all who's all about spreading good vibes and living life to the fullest. Imagine struggling through the darkest days and only to emerge with a vibrant mission to ignite joy and positivity to others. In a world craving more optimism, he is here to help us discover how joyful expression can transform our lives. With over 35 years of experience in the entertainment industry and expertise in neuroencoding, our guest today empowers people to cultivate awe, gratitude, and connection. So, are you ready to meet the man behind the joy experience? Let's embrace the power of joy right now with Marcus Weiss. Welcome, Marcus.
Yeah. Nidhi, thank you for the honor of being on the Nidhi Show. This is unbelievable, and yet it is very believable because as we show up, so we receive. As we share our light, as we shine it, it reflects back onto us. As we electromagnetize from within, we magnetize beautiful things towards us in time. Sometimes it's very short time, sometimes it can be a longer time, but in the end, it will happen. We will make it so. And here we are. And I'm tearing up because your introduction was phenomenal because it shows, that's not something that I had heard before. And it means that is how you perceive what I do and how you choose to share what I do. And it's a reflection of the impact that I feel I've had on your life and the lives you've witnessed me share with. So thank you for the honor of being here.
Thank you so much, Marcus, for taking the time out. And I know you personally now for a few months since we have met in the neuroencoding community. But
Yes.
I'm very curious as we are going to talk today about a little bit difficult subject about depression.
Yes.
And I know you have an incredible journey from depression to where you are today. So, would you like to share some of your personal moments, some pivotal moments, how you struggle with depression and what led you to where you are today?
Oh, my goodness gracious. So, absolutely. There was, as some people might say as well and relate to this, depression in my family. There was anxiety. I grew up with quite a bit of it around me. And so I learned certain ways to approach life, I think. I believe early in life, a vision of the world as a place of an emergency, that somehow life was one big emergency that we had to get through. That's the story that I believe I grew up learning, or at least, and when I say that, it wasn't the intention of those around me. It's just the story that I ended up making up within me. And so while I knew that I wanted to pursue happiness, and while I was this guy at times, even perhaps most of the times as a kid, internally, there was something where I felt if I just make the right moves all the time, if I just do the right things, I will be happy. And so it became either this desperate chasing of happiness, or it became this desperate clinging on to happiness, which in the end bit me in the rear end, because ultimately life happens. Ultimately things happen, and decisions and circumstances became more challenging as life went on. And I'm still talking about high school. I'm still talking about my teenage years, which are turbulent years anyway. But signs of this tension within me started showing in my late teens as I tried to decide what college to go to. And I remember going to sleep right after school, and because I was just exhausted from these thoughts, and at the time nobody had diagnosed anything within me, but I just remember just wanted to go hide. And I wanted to close my shutters and just go into the darkness. And so I chose that. And I would go home like at 5 p.m. I'd go to bed. And that was like, I think, the first sign of something's not right. And I no longer actively embraced life. I actively tried to shun it. I actively tried to push it away. And that was the first time, I think, where I chose darkness over light, was in late high school. I ended up making a decision. That's another whole story about where to go to college. And it was a very aspirational, very competitive place to go. It was called Dartmouth College. And now I absolutely love it. At the time when I arrived, it was too much for my system to handle. I didn't have the tools to deal with it. I graduated first in my class at in high school, but somehow this environment of completely aspirational people was just too much of a crucible for me, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I should do. Everybody seemed so driven and so lit up, and I just was like, must make right move, don't know how. And so I became very, very depressed and anorexic. I lost about 60 pounds. I lost about almost half of my body weight, I believe. I went down to about 100 American pounds. And uh, I was driving through stoplights, without, intentionally without stopping. I just I didn't care. And it came
Did
to
you
the,
feel in those moments that you didn't belong there, and that was the
yes.
reason why you were trying to fit in too
Oh,
hard?
mm, no, I don't think I didn't know the conscious, like I didn't belong there that was not something that I consciously thought, but lonely, I definitely felt lonely. I definitely felt completely alone. I felt incapable of handling what was around me. Um, I felt desperately out of control. In the mean, I desperately wanted to feel on top of my life. I desperately wanted to sort of harness the what I perceived as the sort of the chaos, and I think ultimately for me, anorexia, meaning I stopped eating, became like the last frontier of control, what I put into my mouth. I mean, that's how I see it now. But back then it was little steps, right? Little steps down the spiral. At first it was just, oh, I don't have time to work out, so I'm not gonna eat potatoes. I'm gonna eat less because I can't
Yeah.
work out, be very athletic. And so it was a slow descent, and I just couldn't handle it. I just couldn't handle it. This is the first time really that I'm telling sort of an overarching story of depression. In my speaking and in my coaching, I tell little chapters, but the through line I think for our listeners might be important because it happens gradually. There's little signs. There can be little signs along the way, to reach out. And so I felt very alone and I started to isolate. And it got to the point where I couldn't sit down on hard chairs. I could barely walk upstairs. And I remember, this is weird in retrospect in a way, but especially in light of what I do now, is that my brother yelled at me on the phone because nobody was really helping. I went to therapy and stuff like that, but I was just insistent, right? I was insistent on finding a way to stay depressed. And my brother yelled at me on the phone, Nidhi. He was like, "What are you doing?" Something in that, like, it wasn't the only thing that helped, but something in that was like this little wake up slap. It was just enough. It was just enough. In love, it wasn't like angry, angry. It's like, "What are you
Yeah.
doing? What are you doing?" And something in that's like, what am I doing? There's got to be something out there. There's got to be something out there. And so I went out jogging, Nidhi. I went
Mm.
out for some reason, I remember just the slightest sliver of light from my life, which was, working out. I remembered it. Right? I remembered it. And it was coming closer to me, into my consciousness. I was like, I'm going to put on some sneakers. We called them sneakers or tennis shoes at the time. And I went outside, and it was, I think, during the spring. And I remember barely being able to move. Nidhi, running is defined as both feet being off the ground at the same time versus walking. I think I was just walking. And I was moving like a 90-year-old or 96-year-old who could barely, I mean, compliments to 96-year-olds out there. But I thought that I was like, oh man, and I could barely move. But something in me on this cloudy day, something in me allowed my chin to turn up, literally. Instead of just staring at the ground, I literally lifted my chin up. And I know it sounds like a cliche, and like, chin up, but I literally raised my chin and I literally looked up into the sky and I literally saw the sun peeking out from the clouds. Now, I say that because I didn't see the sun disappearing behind the clouds, but I had this thought of like, ooh, the sun's peeking out. And the meaning that I attached to that in that moment was, oh, there's hope, or, oh, look at the light coming out. And it was that little tiny shift of perspective that I didn't even realize I was doing on purpose, because I wasn't, that gave me a little bit of a feeling of lightness. And it was tiny, Nidhi,
Yeah.
tiny, but that little feeling inside made me feel like I was jogging. Okay. Now, if somebody was on the outside, they might have been like, "What's that person barely moving?" But on the inside, I
Inside.
was jogging. See that face you're making right now? Exactly, exactly. Because then that meaning that I put to jogging was like, I'm doing this. I could have. Well, yesterday I couldn't walk upstairs. Today I'm jogging. But it was just enough, Nidhi, just enough to keep my chin up, just enough to make me decide I'm going to become a theater major, which then led to me rewriting the script in my head on stage first, and then
Wow.
embodying joyful characters on stage first, getting applause from the audience and validation that that I'm worthy, that I belong, that I can do this on stage in the theater department, in theater first. And then I
So,
grew slow in terms of what I yes, in terms of what I delivered. And see, like, even in telling the story, because that's what happened, Nidhi. And
yeah.
and then I went to get a master's degree in acting, and I became a very successful actor. Came to Vegas, opened shows, did the whole nine yards. And what's really, really important to note, and I know we have little time, was the fact that I was doing it on stage and off stage. There was still gnawing things, because I didn't realize that I could rewrite my script, that I could change my thoughts, change the meaning that I put to my thoughts, and then change the feelings that I had, and the things that I did in my life, and therefore the results I got in my life, not just
Yeah.
on stage, but in my life when things went awry. That, wait a minute, I can just write a new script, even if it's just a little change, even if it's just a little change of character. I can do it
Yeah.
in my life. That's what neural coding is about. That's what I discovered through neuron coding. Like, wait,
Yeah.
you mean there's activities I can do? There's things that I can literally embrace on purpose with intention and attention to change my being, even in the slightest way. So that's my very long story, and yet that's the truth, and I'm sticking with it.
Wow. So this light, when this turned on, it
Yes,
didn't
sir.
stay on forever, or it was like there were moments that you would slip back to your old behaviors. And was it consistent, or was it back and forth, and it took a while to get used to this light?
Yes. Well, it worked consistently. It worked consistently within certain parameters. It worked consistently on stage. It worked consistently within the environment of the entertainment industry. Let's say, when I was auditioning, or when I got a role, or in rehearsals, or in workshops, on stage, in plays. Success, that there it was consistent. Where it was not consistent was when things off the stage, whether it's, in relationships, in my marriage, with my children, when things went awry, when the circumstances on the outside became challenging, I didn't approach those challenges. If I didn't approach those challenges in a conscious way. It was as if I knew how to stay healthy in certain
Mm.
parts of my body, but, like, there was still my kidney wasn't doing well, or I didn't know that this particular thing that I was consuming was not good for me. I didn't know how to go, oh no, the I'm just making this up. Oh no, the caffeine, drinking too much caffeine, that's going to make me this way. I didn't know how to discern that. So while my circle of, how I was able to embrace joy and show up in joy and have the light reflect back on me, while that environment expanded, it didn't fully expand to the entirety of my life yet. because I didn't recognize what the core was on purpose. Like I wasn't conscious of the core, of what the light really
Yeah.
was.
Well, looking at now that the way you described it, it was being on stage or particular, in neuroencoding, we would say these were the anchors for you. When you were on stage, that became the moment you were writing that script which you intended to write. And
Hmm.
then once this anchor was gone, there were still feelings that you needed to deal with. And then slowly, probably you use those anchors and you also brought them to the other areas of your life. That's what I'm assuming would have gone in terms of coaching and neuroencoding. That now I can look back as I hear your
Right.
story.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And because those anchors were provided for me, right? I mean and it was by force of sheer magnetism and of course talent and skill that I was able to find myself in those anchor environments. But I didn't so now through neuroencoding and through the things that I do, I can create anchor environments on
Mm.
purpose. I seek them out, and I carry, the anchor, quite frankly, within me. I have, because I have, or I carry it with me at all times because I have so many anchors. I have so many ways to find, create, and sustain feelings of joy, and by that I mean joy, awe, wonder, anything that's essentially light, not darkness. I carry so many. There's so many little anchors that can turn on that light for me that I am rarely, if ever, lost.
Yeah, it's interesting that you touched that point because I remember for a recent conference call we were on with the neuroencoding community, and you shared one of your anchors, and then it made me laugh so hard. Would you like to
Oh
share
yeah.
with our viewers one of your joy anchors?
Oh well. Do you remember what that one was?
I will just give you a hint.
Was it like a shimmy or something? Was it or
Yeah,
was it
with the hands, and there was a certain sound to it. Ding, ding, ding.
really? I don't.
Yeah,
There's so many. There's so many. I don't know.
yeah,
Wow. Oh,
that one, that
okay.
one.
Okay. Oh, okay. Sure. Well, you know what? What's interesting about that is it's so great. That happened to be a one of many moves, and yet the core of it was. I remember I was telling Joseph McClendon III that when I was little, and I didn't realize this is what I was doing, but I would start to sing to myself and just scat or sing to myself in at random times, and then I would feel better, right? I would go wow, and then I would feel better. And here's the thing: the very next moment, I would say to myself, I was like, "What are you doing, Marcus? Or, like, are you just sweeping your troubles under the rug, or are you just setting your troubles aside? You have troubles. Why are you just doing that?" And in now I realize that what I was doing was a good thing.
Yeah,
I can still talk about, I can still process the issues and the troubles or whatever. And what I was doing was I was stop techniquing. I was interrupting my pattern.
yeah,
And so now what we do in neuroencoding was that we interrupt the pattern, and instead of going, Marcus, what did you just do? We
mhm,
go, yes, I interrupted my pattern. Good job, Marcus. You're freaking amazing.
yeah,
So that not only do we stay in that elevated state, instead of whipping ourselves saying like I shouldn't have done that, we stay
yeah.
in that state, and we're telling ourselves with that celebration that was a good thing to do, and I'm going to do it again in the future. you
Yeah,
know
it reminded me of the same because we are Punjabi. So I'm born in a Punjabi family, and we are we are considered to be loud people, and and especially I'm in the Dutch environment, so there really are two opposite ends, right? And
Yes.
so I remember that as a kid, and I still do it. And I also discovered later with neuroencoding that this was my pattern interrupt. So whenever I would do something or crazy, or whenever I've achieved a goal, I would go like, oh, bale, 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 you know. So,
Let's go.
and then my friends and partners would be like, maybe you need to tone down a bit. And but now I know, like, nope, I don't need to.
No, you don't need to. Now I like to say, what was that? Bala 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 bala.
Bale, bale,
Uh,
bale.
Now, listen, look, of course, do I go into elevators? When the elevator opens, do I go into a crowded elevator like this? No, of course not. I don't, I can read the room,
Yeah,
I know when not to blind people. That's called being, considerate or something. We're talking about the core of our being and what we need to do, what we can do to nurture and turn up and our light, right?
that's right. Yeah,
Any moment,
absolutely. Yeah.
like right now, bala 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 bala. I'm gonna there it is. No, it seems silly. We
Yeah.
know, when I know it seems silly, and what would you rather have? What would you rather have? The silly and the light, or not silly and the dark?
Dark. Yeah.
Right. And you and I both know it's simple and it's not easy at first. At
Yeah.
first. And you and I are both living, breathing, beautiful examples of the possibility and the possibilities that that anyone listening and watching can also get there if they choose.
So true. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
what shall we advise to our viewers, especially someone who is really in the dark place, in feeling lonely and depressed? Where could they start right now to move towards the light?
Yes. Is simply, this is what I did, simply recognize one thing to be grateful about. Now, in my experience, when others have suggested to be grateful, I would have this image of what gratitude should feel like. I would have this, I would put this pressure on myself that to feel grateful would need to be this like this huge sort of sort of body melting feeling of openness, and I would encourage those who are in a very dark place to release the need to feel that gratitude needs to feel a certain way. Like, take the pressure off yourself for how gratitude needs to feel. And I would say that gratitude is simply an acknowledgement of something that is positive or more positive than negative. Okay, so that those out there who are in darkness set themselves up to feel successful, that they can set themselves up to win, that they can set themselves up to feel worthy, that they can set themselves up to look at life with even a little bit of hope. So all that means, acknowledge the fact, that you're here listening or watching. Acknowledge the fact that you're still breathing. Acknowledge the fact that you might still be able to reason. You know, if you have sight, just acknowledge the fact that you have sight. Acknowledge the fact that you can hear. If you can hear this, you can hear, and that is more good than not good. If you can acknowledge that and challenge yourself to go, that's a good thing. It doesn't have to be amazing. Just say it's a good thing. Just lift that chin up a little bit and catch yourself if you think, for example, oh, I can hear, and I can hear all those people out there say, no, stop yourself and go, "Sabatui," or whatever it is. Just, just make, just challenge, yeah, just acknowledge, and keep yourself in the acknowledgement of the good, of even the smallest things. and then you will feel successful, worthy, that you won, that that it's good to be here, that life is perhaps full of possibilities after all. Does this make sense?
Yes, it reminds me of a powerful book that I have been currently reading. It's from our Buddhist president, and it's called Hope is a Decision.
Mhm. Hope is a decision. It is a decision. And I would invite, yes, it's a decision. Is it a consequential decision? Yes. Is it an enormous decision? I would maintain no. Simply to take some of the pressure off. You just have to be hopeful for the next moment. You just have to hope that you will live another second, and you will. By the time you finish making the decision, you're still here.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, yeah, because when I was in the darkest of places, uh, getting, I, I felt that the only way out was in some kind of explosive moment of amazingness, and sometimes it can happen for people. And I would just invite people not to necessarily expect that, so that so that those little moments of uplift, those little moments of 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 feelings of light can have an impact on them, so that they don't miss it. So that you don't miss the fact that if you've made it to the end of this podcast, you are affirming life. There is hope in you, whether you acknowledge it or not. If you've made it to this point, and simply acknowledging that means that there's some love of life in you.
Well, that's beautiful. Yeah. Makes all the sense.
That's what I mean. That's what helped. That's what helped me. And so when you look at when then those are totally in the darkness. If you're experiencing darkness and you see somebody show up like, guys, it's a decision. Shabbat boy, out. Like yes, if that helps you and you're instantly out, at least for a moment, great, then acknowledge that. And if you look at that going like, I I I can't be that. Maybe
Hmm.
not yet. Look at it as a possibility, as a destination. Check out, Nidhi and I going dee 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 dee. And if that's something that you want one day, great, you can get there. For now, for now, just just acknowledge the slight feelings and visions of life.
Wow. Thank you so much, Marcus, for sharing this. And I have one more question before we let you go. What is the joy experience about?
The joy experience, the joy experience in life, or the joy experience my 2 weekend online in person event.
Your events. I'm
Oh,
curious.
my event. Okay, great. So my event is called the Joy Experience, and it's happening starting at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on February 8th, and it is 2 hours on February 8th, and then 2 hours again on February 15th. That's a week later, and it is an event that is designed to give you some tools to get further into light by choice. So it is a place where you can show up to take joy to the next level, or you can show up if you feel you need to find joy at all in your life. Either way, you're going to go from this to this to this, not just out here, but most importantly, right in here. So if you feel you need some joy or even more feelings of joy in your life, then the joy experience is for you. So that online course can get you into your life so that you experience life as a joy experience itself.
Okay, great. I'm curious and I'll look forward to that.
Yeah.
Hopefully, this episode goes live before that. Otherwise, they will have the second slot.
Yeah, otherwise I'll have yes, otherwise I'll have the second side. Yeah, right. And it's online, it's interactive, or you can have your camera on, your camera off. Either way, you'll get great things out of it. So thank you, Nidhi, for asking me about that.
Thank you so much, Marcus. So before we close off, if there was one thing that you would to say next to being grateful, what would that be to start with?
To start with, if you're in a place of darkness,
Yep.
do this for me, and it's a very physical thing. In the morning, okay, when you wake up, first thing, take your fingers, touch your eyes, and just go like this, and you go, it's going to be a great day.
It's gonna be a great day.
That's right. I know it sounds ridiculous, just a little bit, and even if it's to remember this moment, because it makes you think just enough to remember this possibly joyful moment, to make you smile just enough, to make you feel just enough, to move your body just enough to get out of bed one more time.
Great.
Right.
We may sound very silly and crazy, but please try it. It works.
Please try it. I know it works. It absolutely does. Nidhi, thank you for having me today. It's been a great honor. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Marcus, for your time, and I look forward to having another conversation with you soon.
That would be amazing. I would love that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and have a good day. Until next time.
Until next time.